I've completed the recipient size for this gentleman from the front all the way to the back over here, which is the crown. So this is called the Megasession, where we've done about 3,000 grafts for him. Where I want to focus on is the design of the frontal area. Hairlines are made with sagittal sites. Sagittal sites mean they're made like this with a needle. The reason for that is they give me a lot better angulation in the front so that the hairline looks more natural. I can control the directionality of the hairline. Behind that, when I go from the 1 and 2 hair grafts over to the 3 hair grafts, I've done coronal sites. The coronal sites are also known as perpendicular or lateral slit sites that are made this way. There's several benefits. Number one is the fact that these sites may add greater density. The second benefit is that they help my placers understand where the transition from the hairline sites or 1 and 2 hair sites over to 3 hair sites. And as you know, placing is so important. It's not just what the surgeon does, but also what the placers do. If you can make their task more readily identifiable, then they won't misplace a graft in the wrong area. As we go back here, the 3 hair grafts are made with sagittal sites. You can sort of peek in there and see that. There are several reasons here. One is the biggest reason that I've made sagittal sites in this posterior forelock region is that this area has hair, as you see. And so when you do coronal sites here, there's a risk of transection, in other words, cutting these hairs and losing these hairs. So I can create a denser result with sagittal sites by placing them much tighter in this distribution across this area. Now, when you're working with a 3,000 plus graft count Megasession procedure, you really have to do a lot of good planning. So that means when you're going from front all the way to the back, which is way back here, you really have to make sure that you don't run out of grafts and make sure that your allocation is correct. So a lot of people think, well, you know, all the goal is just to make sure all the grafts are about the same throughout. No, the priority one is to make sure this hairline is very dense. The priority two is to create the central forelock area as a second priority density zone. But then you need to gradually come down over here. So these graft sites are not as dense, but it's not as critical, because if I just made the same density throughout from front to back, it's not the best use of the density. All the way to the back side over here, the grafts are also, again, denser to help with the crown area. A few technical points that I want to mention about going from sagittal to coronal, I think is worth it, is number one is the angle. The angle refers to the position like this of the site. It is very easy for a novice, especially because when I train surgeons at my hair course, I notice this all the time, is that when they transition from a sagittal to a coronal site, the angles change because their hand angle is not holding the needle the same way. So it's very, very important that transition from a sagittal to a coronal or sagittal to a perpendicular site will have the same angulation so that the sites, everything will look natural. The second thing is the proper interlocking. So this is one of those things that, you know, you do a lot of these sites, you start to naturally do this. If you look, there are no holes, excuse me, between these parallel or sagittal sites and the coronal sites and back to the parallel sites. Oftentimes when you make this transition, it's very easy to leave little holes because the pattern changes. So you want to make sure that there's no hole there, so there's no gaps. And that's something that one is I'm doing as I'm progressing, but also at the end of the procedure, I come back and just cross-check everything in detail with magnification to make sure that there are no holes in the transition point. So this is just a short video describing the use of parallel or sagittal as well as perpendicular or coronal or lateral slit sites, how I use them, why I use them in this Megasession procedure.